see Isaiah hard at work getting the rest of the under frames welded. We've got the T56 brace from the US Car Tool guys meant to fit into what was the torsion bar brace. No matter what, we're gonna have to cut that hoop that goes underneath the tunnel. Right here and here off, so the transmission can get up in there. Hole saw a little hole right there, and hopefully that's all the modifications we need to do. We have some room to move the transmission in and out. We can't finalize that until we get to the engine, and will the engine hit right here. If the shifter is all the way against that back wall right there on there, this is 20.5 inches. That's 28 inches. So this is almost 30 inches to the bell housing. This is why Holly makes this piece. That's gonna go somewhere like this. Pulls about 1.5 inches off of this. We'll get that engine as far back as possible. But the real issue is if the T56 can fit inside the stock drivetrain tunnel. It is a very shallow tunnel because that 727 torque flight is a very shallow transmission when it gets under the car. We can either go one of two ways, and we're gonna find out today, do we need this? I bought it either way. If we don't have to use it, we don't have to use it. Preformed, two-bed, much sexier. This is probably my favorite part.
Oh, wow.
Look at that complex bend right there.
That's so sick.
This is our first hole for the shifter. It's not the whole assembly, but just the initial B-boop. There's a piece up there that we're gonna cut off as well. This gives us enough to set the transmission here and drop the car and see where the pieces lie. My bet is that this lip's gotta go at the very least, and I feel like we're gonna run into some problems here, but we will find out. I can't get it up. That's exactly what we were trying to do. We're expecting a potential 2-degree angle. We're gonna go ahead and lower the car most of the way and then fine tune this. Very good. We know that this needs to go up 5 inches. Can we see something happening? Right now, that's gonna hit that in 4 inches, and we still have to go up 5 inches before the rubber hits that tunnel. Now the thing is, that rubber is actually going to go inside the passenger compartment. So really, our goal is to get to about 7 inches, 6.5. About there. The engine is sticking way out. And I mean engine is in what will be connected to this is what I'm kind of thinking about. Not all that glitters is gold because first of all, we're now on an angle like this, so the top is going to be closer. The wiper module area that's kicked out on the chassis right up here. And so now we're looking at roughly whatever the distance is between those two things. We're running out of room quickly, even though we're nowhere near the spot. We actually can go down even more. Right there. The engine cannot be this low, because now we have the oil pan down here. This is not doable. Do I think that we can make this work? Maybe, but we really need to use the new tunnel. There's no question in my mind. Welded in, everything's open and ready to go now. We can get that transmission up higher, which does raise the engine higher, but now we have room to do it right. Yeah, the guys are wasting no time while I'm working on the beginning of the wiring. They've marked out exactly where this assembly is gonna go. They've got it all tacked together itself. The Miller unit that we have has the plasma cutter, and honestly, MIG and plasma really does a lot of damage. It gets a lot done quickly. The last major cutting that we're gonna do to the car. You would think with all these strands of wire, I'd be pulling all these strands of hair out of my head. And you'd be right, but you know what? Thanks to Keeps, I've got way more than this on the top of my head. Keeps helps focus on preventing hair loss, specifically related to male pattern baldness. By the age of 35, 2 out of every 3 men experience some form of male pattern baldness. That's where you thin on the crown and on the sides here. Mine was getting bad. By about the age of 30, I saw it happening, and then by 32, I reached out to Keeps. Keeps is phenomenal. It's all the information you want all on one site. They manage the whole process, so that way I can focus on these strands while they focus on these. It's simple enough. You have different solutions all focused on preventing hair loss and even potentially, and in my case, regrowing hair. But this area up here was super thin. You could actually touch my scalp. And I just figured, what can I do about it? Well, here's what you can do about it. Go to keeps.com/RobDahm for a special offer. That's keeps.com/RobDahm. I'm gonna do the inaugural cut. I really wanted to. That's a D.
That is
It's
the
my-
worst looking D.
You're not the first person to say that. That's ridiculous.
Look how much better it fits now.
Oh yeah, there it goes. That's pretty promising. That's what 950 bucks gets you.
Good. Stop. Right here, both of them on this side too. This side's touching actually.
This is a lot higher up.
And we got a lot more to go.
We now have up, down, left, right, AB options. We can put the transmission very high. We can put the transmission back, front, once that whole tunnel's done. There's nothing that we're gonna put the QA1 subframe in here and go, oh, it's just going to fit. Very, very happy with how we're just making progress. So I ordered a lot of this from eBay. Since the clutch is meant for a Hellcat, why not use a Hellcat pedal assembly?
Bigger than
That's
I thought it would
huge,
be.
yeah. So this was several $100s cheaper than buying it from Dodge, and more importantly, I could get it in time. Also got from the same company this brake booster. I was made aware that this might be very front biased. What we can start doing is fitting the pedals inside the car. So I left the existing gas pedal to give you kind of a frame of reference of where that pedal is, kind of middle of your foot, a pad of your foot type of thing. Even hitting all the way up, first of all, it doesn't go through the previous brake booster area, and the pedals at best are right there. Looks okay, but that's you hitting it with the palm of your foot. Doesn't feel very natural. Much less, see how low that circle is right in front of my middle finger? That's where the brake booster has to go. That's way too low inside the car. If the brake booster was in its near stock original position, that would actually be incredible. The pedal is way down here. So I'm hitting the fender. We're gonna cut this whole plate area off and make a whole fresh new start. I'm gonna punch up into that area where the windshield wipers are. There's a false wall right inside of here that'll allow us to pull the pedals up about an inch, tilt them as needed, but then that gets the brake booster higher, gets the pedals closer to the right part of your foot, and makes everything else much easier. Because I'm not going to cut this. This is very iconic, it's very weird, it's artistic looking. This shit, nobody's gonna say that that's the legend or the look of a Challenger, but this is like old car engine bay. If we plate all of this flat, now you're just on a race car mode again, and that's not what this project is about. It's either that or go back to the old pedals. Now we have to readapt everything else. They're gonna be very rough feeling. Might as well use the new pedals. And you get all the sensors and everything that come with it. I'm gonna set the pedals aside until we are closer to putting the engine into the car, because then we can start dealing with this area.
frame of this transmission tunnel tagged in. Beat it to hell to make it fit all nice. She is ready to be welded. Once I weld it, I'll be able to see on the back side because there's ugly lip overhanging. When you're welding stuff like this, it's super hard to weld butt to butt, so you will blow out because it's thin versus thick. So I'm gonna weld this super nice because there's gonna be a lip on it, and then once I'm done with that, on the back side of it, you'll see where it actually welded, and you'll be able to cut that off and grind that off, and it'll be pretty much brand new. I was worried about this not lining up right, or straight or center or whatever the case is, but it fit in here fairly easy.
Let's get to it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start welding.
What if we kissed in the engine bay of the 71 Challenger? We're nice and tight and close because as I was asking me questions about the finish that we want on these welds. Mind you, he welded it from the outside, and this is grinding it down on the inside.
This is the inside, and
Yeah.
that's the outside.
Oh man. The outside to us is the inside. Wow, that's deep. Are you ever really outside? We're putting a lot of money into the car is to make it quality. I think that the lip's okay as long as it's not obvious it's a weld lip. But we're also not going to spend 2 weeks doing this.
That was pretty much my question. How much do you want me to grind?
Yeah.
There are some spots that are welded nice like this, and you can just go straight down, and that's just based off of the fitment and if there's a gap or not. If I go too flat, then it breaks through the weld, which I could just weld up the other side, not a big deal, but how much back and forth do you go?
So honest opinion is, I think as it starts to get back here, first of all, you can't see that in the engine bay.
Yeah.
So I think you can stick with a slight lip. As long as it's consistent, I think that's fine. I would rather give all this the love. This is Joel's favorite time of the year. It is wiring harness time. I'll save him some of the boring details, but this is actually 7 out of the 8 core wires to power almost the entire car. SmartWire PDM, while its clunky interface, has an incredible number of outputs. So I'm going to use that to our advantage. These are all 12 gauge, so I can run 20 amps solidly through these. Due to the sake of time, I'm going to basically wire everything to the passenger kick area and then have the PDM have just a bunch of connectors. So that way I can get a harness done. We're just going to have the core harness ran, so A, we can fire it up in the middle of the shop, but B, I can actually make progress, and I'm just going to blow through DT connectors. Use every single one I have in the shop, but it's a lot cheaper than just waiting and then hoping for the best at the end. This is the PDM. I got this nice little setup here to test it, and the only splices we're going to have in here are really turn signal left, turn signal right, and running lights front and rear. Other than that, all of this is then going to go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different connectors. So it'll all go to 1 and then go out to 8, which sucks. But I've got it all documented. My buddy Kev watches this. This, thanks to him, all the breakouts are all right in there. Every single pin, we're using everything. Initially, I'm just going to start pinning all the wires into here. I ran them 2 feet, even gave these extra length just in case. Have them all go to 1, have a little bit of pigtail, and then have it just split out, and then just make those long for the moment. And I can always put the connectors on later. Normally I charge for this, but you get this show for free. My best quick work. It's 6 o'clock. I think I started somewhere around 3 or so. All these are those little spare wires to make this a little bit beefier. It also helps me hide the fact that I have splits.
Are you using Tefsel wire for?
I can't help it. I have a standard now, but I wanted you guys to see this before I hide it all away. Plan this out so the splits go right as the two join together. Adding all the filler wire let me make it look as if it's all the same thickness. It'll be super aesthetic even though nobody will see it. They'll both do the exact same thing, come together. I've got 9 splits from there. We'll use that really nice SCL just to seal this on here, but look at that. You can't even tell. It's really happy with that little trick. You'll notice that I'm not putting stress relief on these things. These are 12 gauge wires in the core of it. You can't do the loop at the end on those. It's the core of the harness. So if you were to pull on this, you've got some pretty beefy wire holding you back. And those pins are very, very crimped. That just makes it all look like worth it. That is just a very satisfying process. All of this will come together. All the splices are already in there anyway. I don't know if I'll make a little pigtail, and then we can start distributing these out whichever way we want to go to the rest of the car, and we can basically install this. This harness has affectionately become my little octopus. There are 8 legs coming off of this thing. Each one of them does a different purpose. And part of it was so that way I could simplify the connectors, use the tried and true Deutsch DT connector. I also made it so that way they were all different, short of one. We'll flip it around. So without labels on this harness, you can't connect the wrong power to the wrong thing and short the car out or do something bad. So every single connector is unique to this harness. The big DTP, which is for 20 amps, and then all the rest are basically the standard DT connector. Short of this one, it's all data. These 2 wires are like rarely use power, so they're not gonna exceed or melt those pins. I'm gonna go ahead and concentric twist all of these 8 legs of this thing, and then just leave them all zip tied at the end until we get in the car later tonight and figure out, here's the lengths of these, and then I can start crimping the wires on. This is a night and day difference. As you guys remember earlier in the series, I was in here sanding all of this, upside down, left side, right, up, all that, and everything was just wobbly. This is not the same car at all. The chassis is so much better. It's 10 o'clock tonight, still 80 degrees. With my wiring harness, these guys getting this, we have a lot to look forward to tomorrow because we are getting in the QA1 front subframe. And then it goes, holy hell, we were already on a crazy path, but that turns this from this into a running car.
The boss comes in tomorrow, so she'll be happy, and only one of us will get whipped.
That's right. By choice. Erica has finally seen the car for the first time she's back from New Jersey. If I don't say how much I love QA1 enough, they are absolute godsend. I'm super excited to show Erica what this is, the moment where the car and the engine connect. So this is going to be one of our more controversial upgrades, but it is a massive upgrade nonetheless. It solves a lot of problems and takes like 200 pounds out of the front of the car. Not having this is absolutely stressful because we're talking about all of this shit. This is late 60s technology because they did the best with what they had at the time. It's very flimsy. It looks heavy duty, but the whole car is very flimsy.
It's also cracked.
And we'd have to do tons of work on it. We'd have to make custom parts. The torsion bars are in the way of the exhaust and the starter. These cars are naturally front weight biased. Any bit of weight out of the front is going to help you get more control of the vehicle. Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
That is the center of it all. The thing that I saw with a couple other subframe kits that I was a little underwhelmed by, the shock mount, which holds the weight of the car up, was separate from this bottom subframe. So this was now resting on the chassis. Instead, everything's all self-contained. This is actually your first time seeing this. What do you think about it?
Making massive progress.
So, it goes. Oh yeah, we have to cut these stop and the thing next to it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that'll go right there. Yeah, there's the spindles. Beef. So those are based off of they call it Mustang 2, but that's actually like Fox body Mustang. We had the brakes long before we even knew that we were getting the correct subframe in time for the event. And this sits on
the engine.
The engine.
Oh yeah, we got it. Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So
all right.
tiny.
Pass right.
Shits on the mass and weight of the other setup. This is the upper control arms. I'm super curious to look at the suspension geometry for these. This is similar to the 4-rotor, almost identical in terms of what it is. It's the steering rack from like a Mustang as well. And we know this very, very well. We know how to operate it, manipulate it, make it work wrong. That's clean. That converts the whole idler arm wiper blade setup to rack and pinion. Steering wise, you're gonna get a much more firm, clean, safe experience with this sort of horsepower. Double adjustables like the rears, coilovers. Safety is number one, and so dialing the suspension in with double adjustables, it's like cheating. It's absolutely cheating. One of the things that I'm really appreciative with QA1's rear setup is that the 4-link is just solid. But there's one addition that they offer that has to do with anti-roll bar, sway bar, which is hilarious because you don't think that a solid rear axle could sway, but that's not what it means. It means that the body sways off of the rear. To help prevent the car tilting, putting power to a rear diff causes the gear to climb. It's gonna cause the whole thing to try and twist. We got QA1's rear sway bar. Now, this is not sponsored. I'm so impressed with their whole kit. I just bought this off of Summit, a solid rear sway bar. We'll have to fabricate some of the mounts. It bolts onto the axle, so it'll have way less body roll, which means on a launch, it won't tilt and it won't change geometry side to side. This car's gonna handle very well at the track. This will be our best drag racing car ever. Hands down, no questions asked. Yeah, it's that easy. Swap out the Earl's inner chiller, intercooler line to make that fit tighter to basically where the windshield wipers are. That's the biggest problem I'm seeing coming up. We couldn't have a more perfect time to have Erica in the shop. This is finally the moment we take this monstrosity off of the pallet and get it into the car. Our plan of attack is this. Get it up, flip it, take the oil pan, because we have to put the mid-mount oil pan on there, and then mount it to the subframe. With that all together, we're gonna put that all on wheels, roll it under the car, and then lower the car onto that whole stack and figure out what hits, cut that out of the way, and then bolt it all up all at once.
It looks really shifty, but it's also our only option.
So once we pick it up, we have to weigh it. That is a heavy engine. You can tell it's got some weight to it. I'm gonna guess 780. 686. That's almost fully dressed. Online, they're saying like 900 pounds.
875.
Yeah, we'll say 700 just to be aggressive, even with the headers and everything on there. Those numbers online are wrong. The rear stack weighs 400 exactly. We'll say the engine weighs 700 exactly. This car is really easy to do math on. That is a tall-ass engine. We're gonna let this engine kind of figure out what it wants. You're crazy. Yeah. Ooh, we're gonna drink oil. The guys are taking this very seriously, which is exactly what I appreciate, but we're gonna go ahead and flip this. It's my fault if we break stuff, but if anything starts to go out of control, just get out of the way.
That wasn't bad. I don't know why I was complaining. Alright, Erica, put it in the hole.
We'll read the instructions first, instead of just start popping shit off. Thankfully, they have pictures. So the very first thing is to start taking shit off. Nice little baffle for like preventing it from starving. That's pretty cool. That's your timing gear right there.
Send you this as well?
Yep. Perfect. Get rid of the gasket and the windage tray, which is this. So this tray helps because the whole thing's spinning in one direction, helps with frothing. These holes are very particular to the direction of the motor. O-ring.
Nice. Beautiful.
That little hole right there, that's for the new oil dipstick position.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So we have to punch that out. That's badass. Look at all this grinding that they did. crazy.
Genuine question. What are your thoughts on this versus your Cosworth?
Now this is a traditional cross-plane crank. These counterweights look massive to me. 90, 90, 90, 90. That's the cross-plane aspect of this engine, where on the other one it's up, 180, 180, up. In a nutshell, the difference between the two motors. And the benefits of this is primary, secondary, tertiary vibrations. Engineers have done a phenomenal job at handling all that. Harmonic resonators, the counterweights. Long story short, this motor is just a proven setup. Boop. It's only 10 foot-pounds, so if you can't do it, you're a little bit. There you go. Wow.
All you had to do was give him that motivation.
Yeah.
Are we just swapping them?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
How much torque does it need?
I'll take full responsibility. It's torque to 21 foot-pounds, then rotate the bolt an additional 90 degrees. I got it set to 21 foot-pounds. Last time I talked about the crow's feet, and I think I had it like this, and that was incorrect. It has to be at a 90, like that. Okay? And so then it wants 90 degrees from this position. That looks like it's gonna open up.
That needs a lot. What? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Is it okay?
Okay, so we should have torqued it by hand. I was keeping visual reference for that reason. We got to 45 degrees. I want to get to right there because 90's here. So
This has to be straight, right? I think
yeah,
that's what.
snap this too.
You're not that strong.
So right past it, right there. Thankfully, I was watching the number right before it snapped. Did it? What?
You're strong. Yeah.
That's 90. Now we start installing. So this is nice, a plate to prevent that splash up. This thing, it just measures right in here. That means that the oil pan is ready to go on. We went through all the other steps. The final bolts get torqued to 105 inch-pounds. Oh, there we go.
Those brand new bolts. Yum, yum, yum.
We did it. We survived. Why did we do the oil pan? Because we knew that no matter what, we were going to do something like this. The moment I've been anticipating for a while. We're just going to put this on. The whole assembly can shift. So it gives you some wiggle room. The steering rack will go there, but we now know fixed height of this underneath the car. Because that's where the frame rails are, and that's where it's going to mount. I'm going to try and lift this myself. I know I can. I've lifted two of these at the same time. No, what I'm trying to do is feel where the center of mass is. Helps me with kind of calculating estimates for the whole car. The center of mass is not right here, it's right here. Let's put the subframe back on, and then we'll wheel it over to the car and set the car down on this. I see nothing wrong with it. Well, okay. Get the fuck out of the way of that. We'll get the Darth Vader helmet coming down. Stop there. We'll just shift it. Keep going, keep going. Alright, stop there. Yeah, let's go back this way. Stop. We are currently shifted this way because the thing needs to come up like that. Keep going. You're not going to hit anything with the engine, so you're good. What do you think?
I can't believe it fits.
Yeah, that's kind of insane that even without adjusting it, that's the first fit.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna have more work to do.
This is where the default position is for the QA1 setup.
We could run some long tubes in this shit.
Aeromotive's supposed to send us those long tubes.
There is so much room in here.
DC Power sent us this incredible alternator. It's 270 amps right there. Yeah. And that fits. Bring it to that lip right there, just so we have space. even with how high this is up in the air of the car, it could be made to fit inside of this hood, much less if we had the sick like snorkel hood. But we're gonna go ahead and get the rest of the subframe in before we start making any decisions on anything. This is absolutely nuts. We have more space than we thought. This is an incredible moment. It's kind of overwhelming for all of us. Now we can see so many things possible. We were like, oh, we're gonna modify it. Now it's looking like we can't make it better than what it is for all the reasons that everybody else has already researched. Stock headers are a little bit bigger than what we'd want, but they would work for the most part. Maybe the steering wouldn't.
It's sitting in here under its own weight and everything like that.
Oh yeah.
Is this to your liking?
Yeah.
Perfection.
Wow.
That was easy.
Yeah, wow, that's the easiest customer.
Trust you guys.
See, this undid like years of trauma.
Yeah, we're good now.
Yeah.
Then a little icing on the cake for the moment.
Oh, and it pulls right in.
Yeah, this one's meant for this car. Ethan is gonna help start assembling all these, test fitting everything. This is the street kit, so it has these nice bushings instead of just all spherical joints and making it purely a race car. Still very firm. Get the shocks all assembled, everything all built here. That puts us in place with these Mustang Fox body spindles to do the whole Willwood box. This is just incredible, and that's how you get to the bearing in the front, the axle nut. There's the race on the outside, race on the inside.
I thought it was one piece.
I did too. The brake rotor, both of the hubs, even comes with all of the bolts and then all of the bearings. Willwood sells the whole kit. This is more than brakes. This is the whole front end outside of the stuff from QA1. So I want to make sure the wheel's clear, understand what the car's going to look like, and plan for all of that sort of stuff. And
Yeah.
two-piece.
Heck yeah.
We will prove to you guys that coilovers on an old car have a place. QA1 makes it easy for us to do that. That's our strength. Let me show what we've done with the wiring. Erica actually helped me pin this all out, and we've got all those connectors on here. I'm gonna put the SCL, the GUI stuff. I left it on there ahead of time last night, and so that'll just help hold everything in place, and every pin is accounted for. So I'm also gonna put in all of these to lock these pins in place, because if one of these pins falls out or gets pulled under tension or whatever, the whole car turns off. Here is the next major puzzle piece. So we know that this was the battery in, meaning that the battery had to go to this system through that red wire. Key on. There you go. But when you turn the starter to on, it turns off. So then we go over here to, I think this one's the starter wire. And so this is the opposite. Why does that matter so much? If we use this wire right here as our ignition wire, as it should be, here's the problem with old carbureted cars versus modern cars. It didn't need an ECU to stay on when it went to the starter. The starter circuit just turned the starter over. If you follow that logic on this, it's gonna turn on ignition when the key is waiting to go, and then turn off your fuel pumps, your ECU, your igniters, everything. It'll turn it off as soon as you go to the starter. So the starter's just spinning the motor. What I did was in the smart wire, I have all these inputs. So the top one is accessories, ignition on, and then starter. Have the ECU on if your accessories are on, have the ECU on if your ignition is on, or have it on when the starter's on.
That's really cool.
Yeah, so you see those ORs. That way, it doesn't turn my circuits off when it goes to hit the starter circuit. What I've also done is figured out this little beanstalk thing here. So that's this connector here. I even checked, what if the ignition is on? This doesn't have like an internal like ignition thing. So this circuit will always turn on the left signal, meaning that there's no like cautions in here. Got that one figured out. I've got the right turn signal figured out. I was just working on the horn and whatnot. Under here is
Oh, that guy.
that guy. We can use that as like demon mode, or we can use it as just a variety of anything else. So I've got all of those inputs mapped to the modern computer, and the only thing I'm worried about is if these contacts failed, it could shut off the computer. I think as a backup we can have the buttons sitting all the way up there next to all the X clutch boxes. There's the buttons for this thing. There's an override, but I say wing it. We are deep into my favorite part of the car. This is a really clean setup. If you're gonna buy this crate engine, don't buy a PDM. This thing's incredible. All the fuses, relays, all built into there. Thing is, I hate fuses. I hate relays. We are going to take that, which plugs into this, and we are going to gut this harness. We're gonna be gutting a lot more than just that. This is the harness that scares me. It's the engine harness that comes with the stock car. Alternator, battery, alternator controls, coils, all on the same harness. That's kind of wild, but it does plug into the car. Excellent place for me to start quickly. This harness as is, I'm just gonna plug into the car. And then this is the other side of that harness. This harness really doesn't do much for us. So I am going to be rewiring a lot of this. Otherwise all this will be just sitting in the dash. A third of this, and it'll plug into here. That's my current goal right now. And so I've got these pins for days, so we can throw a couple spare DT connector pins onto here. I'm actually going to wire this in and then try and fire up the computer and then see what it tells me.
No.
These two I know connect together. Oh, that's cool. That's how it locks in. Plug the pedal in, and then this is actually the ignition on, so we'll just boop it and see what happens. We're also going to unbox our HP tuners. You guys from HP tuners are longtime friends of mine. This gives me a brief opportunity to see what their world is like. Is this a banner?
I hope not, because that's a lot of banners.
I think that's a banner.
What are we going to do with all these banners? No
I have
way.
a surplus of banners.
Oh, that's probably to work on the car thing, no?
I think,
Yeah.
Yeah, you may be right. This is actually
Why did they give you
hilarious.
so
Yeah,
many
we have-
banners?
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 banners. I almost feel like the odds are in their favor that I'm going to put up at least one.
They're huge.
Wow. Chris, I am impressed. Funny enough though, the smallest thing that's in here is their ProLink piece, and this is actually for adding CAN bus and then a sensor or two onto it. This is the heart of what everybody does, is the MPVI-3. It's just this. That's why that OBD port matters so much. Legitimately have no idea what's gonna happen when I plug this thing in. So I'm gonna get all the grounds in this harness. This is very, very fun, weird way of doing this. So this is our temporary PDM, mostly to power other shit, but I think it does power part of the computer. So I'm gonna plug the alternator line into the power module. I want people to just cringe while I'm doing this, because I am cringing while I'm doing this, because I'm trying to hurry. There's been much time, but I need to know the system. That would make the starter battery an open-ended, and then the other one hidden in the middle here. Nothing can go wrong, really. So the only thing working against me is this one's just sitting out in the open. But I can plug that one into the power side, and we would get power. Now the only other thing I need to do here, ground all the grounds, or fry all of it all at once, and then I have to just go full standalone. That's where we're gonna do this too. Infinite power right now. This is not sketchy at all. This is by far one of the sketchiest things I've done. This is the whole reason the thing has fuses, right?
Sure. Well, I guess we're getting our money's worth out of the fuses until you go PD.
Yeah. Okay, are you ready? Only thing we have to make sure is this one doesn't touch something else.
Nothing?
Nothing.
I heard something doing something.
Yeah. Nothing's gotten hot. So what we need to be able to do now is, one of these is ignition relay. This wire actually has to go to power. So that's where it starts getting scary. Oh, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, the relay's clicked on. I can't believe that's working. No VIN was detected. Look at it's working. Enter VIN or cancel to continue without one. Yeah, there's no VIN. It's actually working. Now we need to figure out which option. I'm surprised it can't pick up. It knows the operating system.
Truck 2018 plus. I mean,
Do you want to try an option to see what happens?
yeah.
I heard something clicking.
Oh shit.
It's reading. So far, so good. Apparently, this looks like the right option. We'll know in 33 seconds. System restart.
Oh.
Turn ignition off. Okay. Turning my ignition off.
What
1,
the
2,
heck?
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Turn my ignition back on. Clicking OK.
Heck yeah.
First Dodge test. What the hell have we gotten ourselves into?
It added a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's got exhaust, pressure, temperature, fuel, general, open loop, power enrichment. One of the things that Dodge does differently, and this is a very interesting way of doing this, is that Dodge actually has the deadhead, and what it does, the fuel pumps are under control to send a certain amount of pressure to the rails. Instead of where our system is just, hey, let's maintain a certain amount of pressure related to boost, it responds based on fuel pressure. So it actually reacts to fuel pressure, not the way we do it. A lot of good information in here. All-wheel drive, which isn't enabled on this. It's the information we were looking for. I'm gonna look for the base fuel, base spark, all that sort of shit. I'm gonna absorb this more and see if I can build a map from it.
We're gonna dry fit the rotors and bearings without any grease in it, just to see how the caliper and rotor sits together, and hopefully figure out the brake lines and stuff.
Nights like this and every night before, where you're just really thankful for everybody that's here helping, and we're all super excited. While we're assembling the front of this, it's just nice to see all of our hard work coming together. We didn't guess, but we ordered and got these things from separate companies. First of all is that the rally wheels, while they are very sick, they have some very big limitations. Their barrel comes barreling in right here.
That was a Joel joke.
Yeah, it was. I'm losing sanity here. So this surface gets to right there, meaning that this surface gets to right there, and that's why I hit the wheelwood. With a little bit of spacer, I could get the wheelwood into this area and be fine, but that's if I wanted to transplant these wheels, which for the fun of it, yes. So we're gonna take the RX-7 wheels, which are too deep. I already know that this is gonna be a problem, but we have our nice weld wheels coming in for this. So the offset on this is just way too far. I can tell you right now what wheels would work based on the back spacing from here to here. Thankfully, like I said, Weld makes wheels with that offset. With this, no spacers even needed. And so I'm curious, because it's gonna be an 8-inch wheel. Remember this moment. This is all just so clean, perfect. And thankfully we're only staying in Michigan for a little bit, because this will all get rusty. If you have an 8-inch wheel and it has 0 offset, that means that the center face ends at 4 inches. That's exactly what this is meant for, an 8-inch wheel with 0 offset. As soon as you go to, say, -10, you're gonna hit. This is a beautiful moment where you've got the engine and now the transmission sitting here ready for the final install. So we don't have actual wheels for the car, so we can't set it down on the ground like we were planning to, but you see the progress, and oh my God, I cannot wait to show you guys this next video, because it's the last week of all of the work.